Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam show. First Srimad Bhagavatam show in history, I'm happy to say. This podcast, Wisdom of the Sages, is a daily study of yoga wisdom literature, focusing on the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is great if you're a yoga teacher, if you're a fan of yoga culture, or you just want to add spiritual direction and upgrade the quality of your life. If you want to join us here in our Zoom group, we have about 96 people on Zoom today. If you would like to join us on this private little group, this private little party we're having, you can email Mara, our wonderful assistant, at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And if you have questions, every Saturday we take questions. You can write them to Mara, and she sorts them out. She picks out the ones she likes and throws away the ones she doesn't. And
we never hear them
off on set. We never hear them.
It's not our fault.
She's a filter. If we're not replying to you, it's Mara's fault. How are you, Kaustubha?
I'm doing good today, Raghu. I enjoyed your interview that you did with Raghunath Das.
Yeah, check out. I don't think I posted it by mistake, but his Instagram account is Raghunath Das, which is JAGANNATHA. So like Jagannatha _
Jagannatha.
Yeah, Jagannatha, DASA. Or it's on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Raghunath Capo. No, Raghunath Yoga. Raghunath Yoga.
You were in fine form.
Thank you. I'm just stumbling over stuff. I slept outside. I feel good. I feel refreshed whenever I sleep outside.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I got a couple announcements. Some nice stuff people can catch online today and in the next few days.
Yeah.
Very dear friend and really one of these undented cans who's just got tons of spiritual power. This person, Guranga Prabhu.
Undented, not dented.
He's not dented.
There's definitely two categories of beings in my life. The dented, and then these interesting undented people who just
he's got no dents.
Floating in, doing some time on the planet and then floating out.
He's like this person that he's like this empowered manager. He's helped, he's Radhanath Swami's disciple. He's a brahmachari, a monk from the Radha Gopinath temple in Mumbai. And so he's been, he came out of IIT, which is basically this, university that's nearly impossible to get into. It's probably the most competitive school to get into. And if you don't get into it.
In the world.
Yeah, if you don't get Indian Institute of Technology, if you don't get into it, you might go to Cornell or MIT or something like that as a second choice. But literally it's ridiculously difficult. The competition in India to get into that school is crazy. So when these, a lot of the monks in quite a few, particularly the founding kind of monks, the early on monks that really built that community in Mumbai came out of IIT. He's one of them. But he's this person that's assisted Radha Swami in developing so many of his projects, including the Govardhan Eco Village, which he's been really instrumental in. He can do anything, this person. He's super intelligent, super empowered. And at the same time, you think someone that takes on all the kind of managerial kind of pressures and so on would just kind of get lost in that world and do that important service. But when it comes to speaking on the Shastra and speaking on, just spiritual wisdom, he's like an unlimited ocean of that too. It's I don't know how you do it all, but
Can I tell you interesting? So he's giving a class?
He's going to, for the next 3 days. You see, because it's really sad. Right now I'm feeling a little sadness too, because second Saturday in June is always the New York Rath Yatra.
Right.
It's
not happening. It's COVID canceled.
Yeah, so this parade that's like this very traditional, it's a tradition that goes back probably thousands of years in India.
Yeah.
It's a very deep, esoteric, bhakti related festival. So it happens in New York every year on the second Saturday of June. And so right as this time starts to kick in and the weather starts to feel like this, and, you anticipate this almost like Christmas or something like that, like, oh, Rath Yatra's coming up. That's not going to happen this year, but he will be speaking on that lessons from Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra pastimes. So he'll be speaking on that today, tomorrow, and Sunday at 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. And to go there, the link that I'm getting here says tinyurl.com/y9yh5fyg. That's the best I can do is give you that.
Maybe put it on the chat board.
We could put it on the chat board. We could put it on Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And you can just go back and hear this recording if that's what you need to do to get there. So that's 3 days. Guaranteed that there'll be a lot of fascinating stuff there. And then tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Raghunath Swami will be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And for that, you can go to, we're getting different links here, but God, they're so long and everything. The ISKCON Chaupati Live, Google that.
Chaupati, C-H-O-W.
Facebook.com, ISKCON Chaupati. That's where you go, and it'll be live. It'll be shared there live on Facebook.
Can you get that up there, Mara? Thank you.
And also Radha Gopinath Media. So if you Google those things, but it's
Can I tell you a good story about
ISKCONChaupati.com live? That's where you want to go.
Can I tell you a good story about Gauranga Prabhu? This guy is so interesting. He's managing this massive project.
He's directing people left and right.
Directing people. He's a completely renounced monk. And I was traveling with him in India and my wife. And my wife loves him. And my wife said to him, he goes, How do you do this? How do you do this? How do you be like, do we have a chance to be you? Can we get to be like this? Or is it just like you're born like this? It was a good question. Sometimes you meet people like, can I get there? Or you just have to have it from birth. And he said, well.
Hold it. I have a feeling you're about to give us some key piece of information that's a life changer. Very
key piece of information. Okay. He goes, I think any success I have is due to two factors, or two sort of like standards I've made in my life. And he said, I said, what are they? I want to know. I want to get in on that. And he said, the first one is every day I chant 16 rounds before 7 a.m. I make that a firm commitment. I make that a vow. I don't chant before 7 a.m. Every day I chant 16 rounds of japa. That takes 2 hours. Okay. That's meditation on your malas, Wisdom of the Sage people, we're doing a minimum. At least on Zoomers, we're asking for, if you're on Zoom, 1 round of japa. We're asking that. Yes. Some people are like, don't look at me.
Like all of a sudden we go from 101 participants down to like, we're down to 23. Whatever.
So anyway, and then he said, and the second one is I've made a commitment to never criticize anyone. It's pretty
never criticize or never complain.
Never complain. That's right. I told you the story, right? Never complain. Somehow tied with criticism. And I immediately sort of like raised my hand and was like, that's completely impractical. You're running a...
Sorry.
Well, it's you're running this huge, you've got so many people working underneath you. How could you not complain? What if something doesn't happen? And he says, well, that doesn't mean I won't see something as wrong and change it. But I accept that what's happening, I take full responsibility. And then I might have to change it. but I never actually complain about anything. I just say, well, this is wrong, but I don't go around blaming. You can't, I like this quote. Here's a quote for the day. You can't blame your way to a better future.
Can't blame your way to a better future.
You're throwing away all your responsibility. Yeah, drop the mic there. Make that a post. You can't blame your way for a better future. You can't blame your way to a better future. Mug.
That's better than think it through. In my opinion.
Think it through is very good, man. Matter of fact, I was listening to somebody yesterday and they said, think it through. I listened to Jim Gaffigan, the comedian. He said the same thing, think it through.
That's where you got it from, probably.
Maybe. I steal all of my material and repurpose it. It's called upcycling.
Okay. So Gurunga Prabhu said, he never complains.
Never complains and does his meditation before 7.
Okay.
Pretty good. Rising early is very powerful. I think everybody we got a lot of regulars who are on the show. And if you're new to rising early, it's very, very powerful.
Sure.
Mara?
Yeah. You got a nice letter on Patreon. Do you mind if I share it?
No. How is that for a rehearsed dialogue?
All right.
Go ahead. I would love for you to share it, Mara. Please read.
It's from Seth. First, Raghunath, thank you. 1 week ago today, literally, I saw you on the Joe Rogan show, and it feels like I've been lit on fire with passion for more. I haven't sent out a prayer in 3 years, but the day I sat down and literally said, I just want to know the truth, it has been a wave of indescribable joy, love, compassion that is bringing me to tears as I type. Thank you, Raghunath and Kaustubha, for giving me the divine addiction and making me Krishna conscious.
Oh,
Pretty amazing. 1 week, you just in your car listening to Joe Rogan. The next week you feel like, Haribo! But I really think the point here is, if you make this declaration, anybody makes a declaration, I just want truth in my life, the universe will start aligning with you and what you want. It's very powerful to just put that out there. If you have no like idea or conception of higher power, then just however you envision a higher power. But if you make that strong declaration, it takes you right off the bodily platform and puts you right on a spiritual platform. Powerful stuff.
nice to hear. Thank you.
Nice to hear. You want to dive deep?
Let's do it.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyanatamurandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Alrighty, we are in Canto 1, Chapter 13, text
27, I believe. Yes.
text 27. Yeah. You want to give a quick little update, Kaustubha, to catch our...
So again, we have Vidura, the brother of the blind king, has come back from pilgrimage. He's avoided all the political intrigue, the war, and everything. And his brother Dhritarashtra, the blind king, is sitting in the home of Yudhishthir, his nephew, who he's wronged in so many ways, wasting away his final days. Vidura has come back from the forest just to share this message with him, that it's time to let go. It's time to leave it behind. It's time to take these last moments of your life, get fixed on your purpose, get focused, get detached, and do that spiritual work that you need to do. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because I caught myself looking at the chat board, and you have the Kaustubha's got this new thing. He goes, "Oh, whenever I talk, your face goes."
It's not a new thing. I just started saying it. So you're laughing at yourself for doing it.
I'm laughing at myself for like I did exactly what he said I'd do.
I mean, you can glance over there, but it's just when you're like, I can see sometimes you're completely fixed.
Like cross-eyed, staring to the bottom right corner of the screen.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like two different worlds. I've got the faces. I've got pages of the faces. I've got a chat board. I'm trying to channel God.
Trying to channel God.
I got like manifest 4 heads to do this job. All right.
So why don't we read 26 just quickly, because these two verses are connected. We're at 27 today, but we'll just repeat 26 and then go to 26.
He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown, remote place and, freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless.
Okay. So he is called undisturbed. So that the word there used is dhira.
Dhira means like someone who has some like deep gravity. By the way, gravity doesn't mean you're just like miserable. It means you're just thoughtful about life. You're sort of like, yeah, big deal. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, comes and goes.
Comes and goes. That's, I think, and that's the point. Undisturbed. It's like, this is happening. Oh my God, I'm getting upset about it. I'm worried about it. I'm disturbed. I'm angry about it. You know, this happens. Oh, now I'm swinging that way. No, dhira is like,
you are very dhira, my friend.
You are very dhira to me.
Yeah, that's all I got as far as dhira going. Dhira goes. No. I'm a little bit like, what? Kaustubha is very dhira. Have you noticed that? Very dhira, very right in the middle.
You see that, like, everyone has their own different personality. You're all over the place.
I'm emotional. I'm freaking out about stuff.
Yeah, but
when am I going to get these qualities? I'm reading it every day, Kaustubha. I'm reading it every day. When are they going to manifest? It's been 30 years in.
They'll come. They're coming to you already, Raghunath. I see it all the time. You got it. You got it. It just, you know.
Got it. Oh, Ragu, you got it.
You are dhira.
You are. Therefore, leave for the north immediately. Hold it. Not Canada.
Whoa. You skipped 27.
Oh, sorry.
As well as 27's purport. We got to read that.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Canadians. Pull it back. They thought they were already there.
Text 27. Hit it.
He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands either by himself or from others the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart.
Okay, so now
did you ever read some statement like this from the Bhagavatam when you were a young devotee, or before you were even practicing bhakti, and you were like, either by himself or from others, the falsity and the misery of this material world. What's wrong with these people? Why are they such pessimists? Life is good. And then you get a little older and you're like, life is painful. It takes a few decades of getting just like slapped down by the material world to, oh, I get it. I can't keep anything. Oh, I get it. I could get disease. I get it. Friends I love have died. You know, oh, I get it. I lost all my money. I lost my home. It broke my heart. The material world is just like punching bags. Just beat down by the material world. It takes a few decades of hard life to really appreciate the pain of material existence.
Yeah, for many people it'll be like that. So we have like two things to be compared here. In the previous verse, it talked about being a dhira, being undisturbed, and then going out there. Here, it's talking about being a narottama.
Narottama, as opposed to a dhira.
Yeah. So the narottama here is saying that literally narottama, nara means like a human, and uttama means like the best.
Topmost.
Right? Yeah,
top class, as I say in India, right? Aravind,
yeah.
Right? Top class.
Top class.
Top class.
So that is a person that's not just, and this becomes really important when you get to Srimad Bhagavatam, especially because Bhagavatam is meant to clear everything up, clear up all the spiritual teachings that have come before it. And to become a Dira, that's impressive. To become like, I'm undisturbed by the externals, that's quite an accomplishment. We respect that. But something much more than that, what the value of that is that it can lead to the possibility of connecting with God in your own heart and becoming a Narottama, becoming like that. Because that's what it's all meant to lead to. So Bhagavatam is meant to bring us there. Not that we're just detached and renounced, but that we actually achieve the stage of connected, and specifically here it mentions connected to God in the heart. So why don't we read the commentary to this, Raghu? Huh?
Sure. Purport. There are 3 classes of transcendentalists, namely the Dira, or the one who's not disturbed by being away from family association. That means, it means like how would you explain that in terms to how it was explained here?
Again, we mentioned this the other day when it says family association here, because it's coming from a certain cultural context, we could just say that they're not disturbed being away from their sources of pleasure in life, right?
It's like the deep sources of pleasure are family.
Yeah.
And, I miss you. What am I going to do without you? So you're actually a little bit more focused on.
Just like you just said, that life is tough. And so we enter into family life and we find some happiness there, but then life, gets tough, whether it's, a painful divorce or, the loss of a child or a serious disappointment in some way. And then ultimately death, is going to start to take our family members away and ultimately take us away. So a person that's not disturbed, they're understanding that the pleasures and any pleasures of this world can be connected to God. But if we see those pleasures as that's where I find my happiness, we're an illusion, because really those things are going to come and they're going to go for sure. Whereas the happiness that is our own nature within, that's what the Dira is become interested in. Right. So once I become connected there, whatever's happening external, I'm undisturbed. I'm Dira. And so family association is used in this context to kind of indicate those broader connections that we search happiness through.
Maybe the deepest thing we're attached to.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
2, one in the renounced order of life is sannyasi by frustrated sentiment.
In other words, I've recognized that I've tried to enjoy this world. I've become frustrated with it because it disappoints me again and again. I'm going to renounce now.
Right. And 3, a sincere bhakta, one who's devoted to the Lord, who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting and leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead, who resides in the heart. What are they cluing at? We all have to leave home, Kaustubha? Where are we going with this purport? Are we supposed to just get out of our house right now? Leave home.
I'll say this. There's many scriptural statements that say that you must do this, right? You must leave home at the end. But there's other statements that say other things. And there's one where there's one quote by Srila Prabhupada, I should try to find it, where he says that if in your family life it's totally connected to God, right? If you and your family, rather than looking at each other for your pleasures in life, you are all together happily looking towards connecting with God in the heart for happiness in life, or, looking within, then you don't have to leave home because you've achieved the goal of leaving home.
Right. The real renunciation is within the heart and the mind.
Yeah. And so here, I'll be honest here. The previous verse spoke of the Dira, and here in this commentary, and then this verse speaks of the Narottama. Again, the difference between the Dira is the detached and undisturbed, but the Narottama is so connected to God that the detachment and the lack of disturbance just comes automatically as like a byproduct, but they're far more advanced. Now Srila Prabhupada throws in the sannyasi in here. So he's got 1, 2, and 3, the Dira, the sannyasi, and the Narottama. I'm not really clear on the difference between the first 2 here. Honestly, I'm examining it and I'm not quite getting it. But at the very least, we can share that both of those were lacking the connection to God, which the third one has. Okay, that the value of my being undisturbed or the value of my being renounced is ultimately that I can connect with God. And that's what the third one is doing. So it's saying that this person, through hearing and chanting, they become completely connected to God who resides in the heart.
It's like the fast track. It's like a fast track.
It's both a fast track and it's the goal in the end. It's both, right?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, and we've seen it just within our own life, we've met people who've renounced, very God conscious, and we've met people who've are just still within their family life, and they're very, very evolved beings.
Yeah.
You know, or they might have even a big business or a lot of things going on, and they're just evolved within their family life. That's why the path of bhakti is the most practical, because you can continue in your family life and your job and your life, but you just add Krishna to your life. It's not like you have to take away. The other paths deal with more with how can we take away? How can we take away? But adding is very powerful, and it starts to redirect how we think, how we move in this world, how we treat, how we look at work. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I'm not going to work here anymore. We change the trajectory of our life, and we change our work, it changes the way we, raise the kids. It changes the way we interact with employees. I mean,
Changes everything.
I've seen even newer people, like new students of mine, who've like got into bhakti, and they've literally changed everything, and they're happily married and stuff like that. But they've just changed every facet of their life, and it's as if they're been in this for 34, 40 years. They just become evolved quickly. It's actually a fast track, whereas the renunciation, you become, you develop a lot of good qualities, but that deep, joyous connection through hearing and chanting, it's just not there. They have a sobriety about life. You see people like this, they're just thinkers. They're thinkers. They're in their head. They're thinking about stuff. And this is illusion. And this is pain. And the material world is suffering. And that's like a very sober look. This is like sort of like a Stoic or a Leo Tolstoy, or a person who's just contemplating the pain of existence and trying to find truth. But there's no bhava, there's no joy that goes with it. It's just struggling with existence, and a very sober-minded person.
Why do you mention Tolstoy? He seems like a God-connected person to me.
He did seem sort of God-connected, but there also is a sort of a thing I find in Christianity. It's got this sort of, I'm not sure, maybe we can ask Thomas Harry Bowl, but we can, it seems like there's a candy cane twist of martyrdom in it. You know what I mean? It always goes to this sort of like, it's not like Harry Bowl. You don't see the Harry Bowl with it. I've never been to church and have them go, Harry Bowl.
Yes, you have. Always, you were dancing around to the Day by Day the other day over here.
Yeah, it was. That was the big renaissance, I think, in Christianity when the Godspell soundtrack came out.
But I think these three, like the karma, jnana, bhakti, or the materialism, the kind of the cold renunciation, and the Hari Bol, bhakta, is there in all these different traditions,
Yeah.
Yeah. But but this distinction is, I just want to really draw a circle around something for everybody that's hearing this with us and getting into Srimad Bhagavatam with us. It's something that we said before, but it's the more that we say it, the more it starts to sink in and more it starts to crystallize. But the Bhagavatam is written by Srila Vyasadeva, who's already written a lot of literature on spirituality. And a lot of that, for instance, you take the Upanishads, they stress more these dhira teachings, these more becoming detached and renunciation, letting go of the material things, seeing them for what they are, and cutting off your connection from it. And for a lot of people, because those writings are so fascinating and have become so prominent, that they become identified as that's the goal, to become renounced, to become detached from the material things. That's the highest thing. If someone's doing that, they're the highest person. If so, that's a very difficult goal to achieve. And when someone's connected to family life or not demonstrating external renunciation, it must mean that they're on a lower level and they haven't come to that level of total detachment. Otherwise, they would have wandered off to the forest already and would have been, detached from everything. Now, what the Bhagavatam does is it clarifies things. The Bhagavatam is going to say, because the Bhagavatam is going to open up with the sages in the forest of Naimisharanya, turning to Sutta Goswami and saying, you know what, we need to get to the essence of all this, and we think you're the person that can help us. So could you please tell us, you know all of the works of Vyasadeva, you know the Upanishads, but you know the Mahabharata, and you know the Puranas, and you know it all. And we're looking to you as the most qualified person who's, the secrets of all this, the depth of all of it has been revealed to you by the grace of your gurus, because you're such an excellent student of theirs, and your behavior and your attitude and all of that. So could you please summarize for us, what is the essence of all this? And what is it? What do we take from all of this yoga literature that helps us achieve the highest goal in life, or Atma Supersiddhiti, where we find complete satisfaction of the soul? What is it that takes us there? And his answer comes in the second chapter of the Bhagavatam, in the 6th verse, where he'll identify as Bhakti Yoga is what will deliver that. Bhakti Yoga that's done without any kind of material motive whatsoever.
Some kickback, material kickback.
Yeah, I'm not in it for some material kickback. I'm not now. In his saying that, 2 questions could logically come up. Well, what about karma? What about doing good things in this world and reaping good results? Isn't that what leads to the full satisfaction of the self? Because the 4 Vedas speak a lot about that. Or another question that could come up is, what about jnana? What about detachment and renunciation? What about that? The Upanishads seem to be pointing in that direction as the highest thing. So he says this verse, Savai Pungsa Paro Dharmo, that Yato Bhakti Radhoksaje, that Bhakti Yoga is that which will, when practiced without any material motive, that will deliver complete, and it's the only process that delivers complete satisfaction of the soul.
I mean,
so
yeah. Sorry.
Then immediately one can ask, what about jnana? What about vairagya? What about knowledge and detachment? Cold, analysis and renunciation. So the next verse, he says this. He says, by rendering bhakti in connection with God, one immediately acquires knowledge and detachment from the world. In other words, the goal that one would aim for through hardcore jnanic practice of detachment and renunciation, for the bhakti yogi, for the one who's connected himself with God, it comes on its own. You don't even have to try for it separately, because you become so attached to God that you let go of all the material things. And playing out in family life, that may play out like this. It's not that you don't love your family, but you've recognized already that it's not the family that gives Atma Supersiddhiti. We can have joy together in connecting with God, and the detachment from the things of this world. When I'm connected to God, it comes automatically. It's I don't even have to try for it. And then one could say, well, okay, fine, but also those verses about so much in the Vedas, it seems to be encouraging me to do good works in this world and to show my gratitude to the gods through sacrifice, and I'll reap all these wonderful benefits. Does that lead to Atma Supersiddhiti? And then he says, no, the occupational activities that a person performs according to their position, which is all relating to the Vedic teachings of karma, of doing good things for material benefits, they're all only useless labor if they don't provoke attraction for the message of God.
I mean, these teachings,
yeah.
Can I
I'll wrap it up with it. Just
okay.
So right there, right at the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the book that's meant to clarify everything, he identifies that within Vyasadeva's teachings, there's teachings on, it's one level of advancement in life. Let me be pious and reap material benefits from it. That's one step forward of being a civilized, good human being. And then there's another stage called jnana, wherein through analysis of what the material world is, or as the verse that we just read, through frustration, right? I might feel frustrated. In the commentary, Prabhupada was saying that I renounce. That's another stage. I let go of all the material things. But neither of those gives Atma Supersiddhi, complete satisfaction to the soul, which is only found in the connection of divine love. And that's in Bhakti. So therefore, Bhagavatam is meant to really clarify this for us. And it starts right at the beginning, it's clarified. And then the whole 18,000 verses just show it again and again and again how that works. Okay, I'm sorry. Please speak to us, Raghu.
I think you've said everything I was going to say.
No, I want to hear it.
No, I think you actually said it.
Okay.
I think you actually said it. I will say that Christine Murphy Hernandez said the divide. Oh, what did she say? She said it depends what Christian church you're in, and that's true because I've been to some Baptist church where they're singing and they're clapping and they're dancing. There's a dance going on there. It just wasn't happening in my Catholic mass.
Okay.
That's a good point. But I did want to say,
yeah.
And it makes no sense anymore. Now I'm just, whatever Kaustubha said, I meant that too. I don't want to get credit for everything you just said. I was going to say that just like a more simplistic way, which was the Bhagavatam is the final statement of Vedas, because people approach the Vedas not just to find God. There's all different types of desires. It's a very, very, the whole teachings of India, they're just like multi-branched. People want to learn, not necessarily that everybody wants love of God. Some people just want mystical powers. They want to become like superhumans. Some people want to leave their body and go to higher planets. I met a guy at the temple once when we were young, and he just said, and he used to just come to the Sunday feast and dance and sing. And I said, I just asked him his story, and I said something about, go back to Krishna. He goes, oh, I don't want to go back to Krishna. I go, what do you want to do? He goes, I just want to get born on a higher planet.
Okay.
He just said he wanted to get born on a higher planet. I go, why? He goes, they're great. Are you kidding? Have you ever read and studied about the higher planets? I think he missed the whole mark of it, but no, I kid you not.
No, I'm saying he was saying.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding? That reminds me of something also, though. Something that I've pondered over the years.
Yes.
But I remember when I was first starting to get into this, and one of my friends that was also just kind of getting into it at the time. And she said,
now everybody's getting on my back. Okay, the Catholic Church can also have bhakti. All right. I'm just going to cork it today. Kaustubha, it's yours. Take it. Run with it.
You're reading the chat board when I'm speaking again. You see?
That's what's the problem. I'm going to stop reading that chat board.
Okay. So we were young. I was like 20 years old, or 20, just turned 21 or something. And there's this other, a girl that was also getting into it at the same time, a friend of mine, also from the same scene and all that. And I remember she said, I don't have any desire to go to the heavenly planets, I just want, Krishna. I just want to connect with God. And I thought about it then, and I've thought about it more and more over the years, that I appreciate what she's saying. But I also believe that unless you, in other words, like I may theoretically understand that within the cosmos, there are these higher planets where material pleasures are far more available. And I get it, that that's not the highest goal. And even that is temporary, and even that you lose, and even that doesn't give complete satisfaction to the soul. So I don't want that. One could say that, and that's the proper kind of fundamental knowledge that we need to have. But until I'm free of any desire for material enjoyment, in a sense, I still desire to go there.
Sure.
Right.
The idea is, it's one of those things like everybody's got their price. No. I'm not interested. All I want is God. Everybody's got their price. Ever see that picture of the tapestry of the temptation of Buddha? I think there's a temptation of Christ similar to that, where and they even say this in the Vedic tradition, that whenever the soul gets very focused and very serious and very connected, all of a sudden all the demigods become envious, and they start throwing all these different tests. I mean, probably people right here on the board have probably experienced something like that. Whenever you make a determined focus, I'm a spiritual person, I'm on a spiritual path, and all of a sudden you feel some bliss from that statement, some type of liberation. Get ready, because you're about to get every curveball thrown at you, and to see how sincere are you. And everybody goes through this choice. Do you really want what's behind curtain A, or do you want what's behind curtain B? Do you want the North Fork or the South Fork? And we get asked that practically every day. But usually we go through a state of romantic stage in our spiritual life where we just get some bliss and some high. And then we just get challenges. And those challenges are to see what path we're going to choose, north or south.
That's a really important thing. I mean, my point was as simple as this, is like, I can say theoretically that I don't want to rise to some higher plans for material enjoyment, but as long as there's desire for material enjoyment in me, that's where it's most available. So I can't really say that I'm free of the desire for that, because there's still the desire for material enjoyment in me. But I really like your point is that it's a fact that, like, when you first come to the path of bhakti, you may feel this kind of high, but there may be many years of hard work in front, that you really have to be prepared for. And there will be the challenges that are going to come up. And those are the challenges where you're going to root those things out of the heart, where you're going to really stand there and have to make some hard choices. And I think it's through that process that we become free of it. So we may get it initially, and just getting it feels liberating. But then from that platform of just kind of getting it all theoretically, one has to go into the heart and begin to become free of all of these illusions and all of these attachments. And that can be a lot, years of hard work, but it's great hard work,
Yeah. Wonder what a heavenly planet's like.
You can read about it. Come on, man.
I wonder, like, how many tests would I have to go through before I failed? Sort of like, would you like, the very first test, Raghunath, would you like this planet? Okay, I'll take it. Would it be like the first planet that was offered to me? Or no, I don't want it. I don't want that planet. How about this planet? No, I don't want that one either. Oh yeah, try this one. Okay, I'll take it. Give me Saturn. I'll take Venus. Raghunath was doing good, and then Venus got offered to him, and he just lost it. Okay.
Shall we continue with the commentary?
Yeah, I'm lost. You read.
Okay. He says, the idea is that the renounced order of life, after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world, may be a stepping stone on the path to self-realization, but real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One may live in the darkest jungle alone out of home, but a steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. Okay, I'm never alone. Right?
Never alone.
Never alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is within him, and he can protect his sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality form and pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness. This is really nice, in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I approaching God? Again, am I approaching God? And when I mention those three stages, like the Vedas speak of, I approach God for the material things in this world. I may approach God for relief of the sufferings of this world. But ultimately, the sincerest purpose, I'm approaching purely out of love. I don't want anything from you. I just want to connect with you in love. So he says, one who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he sits in everyone's heart. So if I'm approaching God, this is also where you can draw that line between religion and spirituality. That if I'm approaching God for the things of this world, I really haven't entered into the deep spiritual stuff yet. I'm kind of absorbed in the material stuff.
Right.
And the result of that is what's being said here is he said that you will be reciprocated with according to the level of the depth of your sincerity. So if I want material things, I can get them. But in that state of consciousness, you won't be able to connect with God in your heart, depend on God with your heart, pass through any circumstance in this world, not feeling alone, feeling connected with no fear, with no anxiety, seeing everything as beneficial. That happens when you're connected to God in the heart. But if you're approaching God for something else, then you're going to get that something else. He says, So he says, nor does the Lord give any direction to persons who worship him for material gain. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of the first-class human being, the Narottama, as above mentioned.
When
Says there-
Krishna likes you, gives you whatever you want. When Krishna loves you, he takes it all away.
Yeah, but gives you what that highest
Gives you
stage.
what you need.
Yeah. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. And you know, I tell you, to me, just honestly, like I find in my practice at this stage of my practice, really one of the most important things that I'm trying to do in my life is I'm trying to open up that connection with God in the heart, so that it doesn't just be, so that my spiritual practice isn't something that's divided into moments of the day. At this time of the day, I'm doing this and I'm connected spiritually, and at that time I'm doing it, but that it be 24 hours a day. And you know, how do we realize, how do we feel God in the heart, and how do we see God within the heart of every living being as we're moving through life? It's challenging because the material energy is just moving and it's got us distracted by so many things. But I believe it begins with actually just speaking to God within the heart, you know, like this kind of inner prayer. And I think it can even begin just by like taking certain times of the day, particularly when I go to sleep, but other times of the day too, where you begin to speak to God right then. Okay, now is the time where I set aside things and I begin to talk to you, you know. I begin to tell you what it is that I really desire. I begin to ask for help, you know, and to show my appreciation and verbalize it, you know, in my prayer. And I believe that when we become accustomed to that, that we begin to do that more throughout the day, you know. It's like, it's not just that I separate that by time, but now I start to live a little bit more in that world, and that gradually, by the mercy, you know, by the mercy that can open up, you know, and to the point where it's like I'm always feeling that presence here. But if I ignore that presence 100%, I'm not going to feel it. So let me start to identify certain times where I connect and see if I can expand that and expand that and expand that. Yeah,
I'm liking.
you're liking this. Okay.
You know, when you were reading, also I was thinking like, there's really nothing to pray for, isn't there? Like the more I pray, the more I realize that's a material prayer. That's a material prayer. It's like I can't pray for health. I can't pray for, you know, safety. I can't pray for, you know, all I can pray when I finally get down to my prayer is for connect. Like if someone's going through something someone I love, it's really, I pray that they become connected. Otherwise, I try to feel like my prayer is trying to manipulate God's plan. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but I get it. In other words, so we don't, but there are certain things that we can pray for, and there's a lot of other things that can be expressed through prayer. Like, for instance, there can be prayers of gratitude, right? Where you're not asking for anything, where you're just showing, you know, your gratitude to God, speaking on that level. But what we can pray for, you know, that they're in bhakti, and again, the Bhagavatam is going to show us so many prayers, is we can pray for that connection. We can pray for that, you know, that as a matter of fact, it said we even have to beg for it, right? We have to beg for pure bhakti. We have to beg that, when will that day come? I'm dying for that day. I know that my heart and my mind are full of all kind of material desires. I want to let go of that. But when will that day come when I can be fully devoted to you, when I'll have nothing but love for you? I'm begging for that. You know, that prayer, you know.
Do you ever get people who say to you, hey, can you pray for my brother who's going through a hard time?
Yeah.
How do you pray?
Well, you know, that's the kind of thing where we can, from what you know, my understanding of how we can pray in that circumstance is that we're not necessarily praying for their material well-being, but we're praying for their spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Pray that they become connected.
Yeah. Or pray that, you know, whatever you're putting.
What good is health, right? What good is health if you're not connected?
And what a great value, like, you know, some lack of health, some disease, or some struggle can be if we can grow through it. So, hey, they're going through this. May they benefit fully from it in the way that you would want them to. Okay. Shall we read the next text?
Sure.
Oh, we're almost out of time here.
We're almost out of time. Let's see if we can get it in.
Okay.
Please, therefore, leave for the... This is good. Please, therefore, leave for the north, to northern Ontario, without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach, which will diminish the good qualities of men. So here we are. Kali Yuga is about to kick in. Krishna is going to leave the planet. If he didn't know, I don't know if he left the planet at this point. And Kali Yuga, like Dwapara Yuga is ending. It's the changing of seasons, the changing of ages. So
he had left, remember, because that was he wouldn't share that, even though he knew about it.
So he said, go north immediately. In India, when they say go north, they're talking about the holy Dhams in the Himalayas. Yeah. Badrinath, where Vyasadev's living. Go north now. For soon the time will approach that will diminish the good qualities of men.
Time to get out.
Time to get out.
We all got to get out.
Speaking of time to get out, it's time to get out. Woo! Well, thanks everybody for joining us here. Our morning study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nice way to start your morning. It's part of your balanced breakfast. Thanks for everybody joining us on Apple Podcasts. Go there, give us a 5-star review. It helps. We appreciate it. If you'd like to join our little Zoom family, come on, join our little posse. It's we had about 100+ people today. You can join by emailing Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Thanks for everybody who's supporting us. This boat, trying to keep this boat floating, and it's getting bigger. It's becoming a full-time job, Wisdom of the Sages. I thought, I'll get a class in the morning. Now me and Kaustubha are like all day long, and Mara, you gotta help us. So thanks for everybody who's supporting us with the patreon.com. And we're trying to give back because just by adding a lot of events and classes and yoga classes starting next week with Bobby Marchand. Bobby Marchand's our first yoga class next Tuesday. Awesome. And at 10 a.m. And Bobby's the one we do the teacher training with in America. If you're interested in teacher training in America, it's 200-hour. Our 300-hour one's going to be in India with Kaustubha. Got a great program. If you go to supersoulyoga.com and go to trainings, our India training is very, very special. It's the Super Soul Academy where we have the whole wisdom training where we're going through sacred literature. We have a 300-hour teacher training. And then, of course, we have our Madhu's there with his Kirtan Academy and Ayurvedic immersion. Great place to be in January, especially if you live in the Northeast. And Raghunath Swami's there. It's quite amazing. Thanks, everybody. Turn that namaste into a hand clap and start bouncing on your chair. Bono.
You want to have a question and answer tomorrow?
Oh, today's Friday?
Isn't it? Yeah, it is.
It is. All right, Sleeping Saturday. It's Q&A day tomorrow. So if you didn't send your questions, if you got questions, you can always send them in to Mara. And we try
to
send them in
quick if you want them
send them in quick.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
you gotta, to get higher up on that list, you got to make it a real dramatic question. You got to make it like,
I'm desperate. I'm going to kill myself. If you don't And Sunday will be Divya Alter, incredible Ayurvedic teacher and chef.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from Divya too.
And then she's going to come back and be on our Patreon thing. She's going to give an introduction to the fundamentals of Ayurvedic cooking on Friday afternoon.
Nice. When are we having the Patreon cook-off? When's that happening? Mara, is that scheduled?
Yeah.
I'll be in Mara's corner. Come on, Mara, you get out there. You're like a rolling pin. Come out and start cooking. Go.
Rama Jai Rama